college football, about 3 or 4 weeks into the season, I started to notice that my muscles were getting smaller, I was getting weaker, and my performance, although on the field, was still pretty good. I recognized that in the weight room, I had suffered many losses. And a lot of strength and conditioning coaches who train athletes and football players and any athlete who has to maintain strength and power throughout the season recognizes that if you don't do an in-season program, if you don't have an in-season strength and conditioning program, that towards the end of the season or even halfway through, the athletes start to suffer and their performance will inevitably decline, their increase for injury goes up. So we all understand that an in-season strength and conditioning program is essential for all athletes to perform. Now the thing is, it becomes confusing because you're spending so much time on the field, if you're an athlete, or on the court, and you're constantly running up and down, running patterns, banging into each other, that you really don't have the energy left over to maintain a fully functioning strength and conditioning program, and you only have so much life force within you. So if you start draining yourself in the weight room, you're going to suffer the consequences on the field also, because you're just draining that force out of your body and you have nothing left for practice and for your game. So it absolutely makes sense to have an in-season program, but how do we balance it? Well, on strengthcamp.com, which is my blog, we started talking about how other strength and conditioning coaches and athletes design their in-season training programs, and I got some great ideas from the guys that posted on there. So if you want to get some of their ideas, go ahead and check it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the parameters that we take a look at when designing any program, but we're going to manipulate these parameters, as you see above, to fit in-season athletes. So you'll sort of walk away with a program to follow, but more importantly, you'll understand the parameters and how to manipulate them based on where you are in your season or postseason. So the very first thing that we want to take a look at is frequency. That needs to be manipulated. In your off season, you're probably training 3 to 5 times a day, if that includes speed and agility training, plyometrics, things of that nature, in addition to your strength training. But during the season, you're going to have to adjust this, and the way that I would adjust the frequency of auxiliary strength and conditioning, conditioning outside of that of your sport, is to bring it down from 4 or 5 days to about 2 or even 1, depending on your schedule. So what we've got to do is drop the frequency when we're in season. Bang. I say about 1 or 2 days is probably your best bet, especially with high school and college athletes who have busy schedules. They're not like the pros who can sleep all day on Monday. They've got class and they've got stress and they've got parents. They've got all types of crap going on that doesn't allow them to recover from more than 1 or 2 days a week, including all their sports practice. That's the very first one. That's the easy one most people know. Let's choose the exercises that are going to be essential. Now we know we have a limited amount of time as far as days are concerned, and also we want to limit the amount of time that's spent in the weight room for each day that we're in there. We can't spend an hour or an hour and a half in there. So we've got to choose exercises that give us our biggest bang for the buck based on our goals, which we didn't talk about before. Essentially what we want to do with this program is maintain their strength and power, or maintain your strength and power. I don't necessarily see you getting bigger or getting stronger, or that much stronger, during your season. You might get a little bit stronger, especially if you're a younger athlete who's really just getting started with strength and conditioning. But for the most part, we want to maintain your strength, your maximal strength, and your power. And there are a couple ways that we test that. And number one would be to do a 1 repetition max effort squat or deadlift or bench press. Those are the typical ones. Test that towards the end of your off season. And then also for power, I like to test with jumps. I like to see how high my kids can jump, how far they can jump, and we'll use a box jump as well. A lot of coaches prefer to use Olympic lifts. How much are they cleaning and how much are they snatching? Not my preference, but that's fine also. Power or strength and power, both are involved. We want to maintain the athlete's ability to perform those during the season. That way that strength that was built during the off season translates throughout the season. So what we're going to do is the very first thing I want to add to this exercise program is a power output exercise. So number one, I'm going to say box jumps. And the reason why I put box jumps as number one is because I like to have the exercises that have the most neurological demand, the exercises that really take a lot out of you and you need to be on point for, you need to put them first. And mind you that a lot of times these programs are performed after practice. So your kids are probably tired from jumping all over the place for catching balls and dunking balls, whatever they're doing for an hour and a half practice. You bring them in the gym and it's like, what do I have left, coach? So we'll talk about volume in a minute, and that's how we're going to address the fatigue that your athlete is dealing with. Number two, I want to get in. I like deadlifts very much. I personally prefer deadlifts over back squats, and I prefer front squats over back squats, and that's just my personal preference based on the results that I've seen. If your athletes understand how to deadlift properly. If they don't, I've got videos on my YouTube channel. If you're watching my YouTube channel, just scroll through. And there are lots of programs out there like Eric Cressy's Show and Go that teach you the intricacies of how to perform deadlift and squat. So we want to make sure that they're doing it properly. That's a no-brainer. So deadlift is going to be our main power exercise. Our main strength exercise. Sorry, this is power, this is strength. And I like to add like one or two bodybuilding exercises. I don't necessarily think they're going to increase their size during the season, but you may be able to maintain some of it, in particular in the scapula adductors and the posterior chain. That basically means the muscles back here, keeping their posture upright. You know your athlete's getting weaker when they start slouching a lot more. And based on the sport that you're playing, if you're playing baseball or you're doing anything where you have to hunch over, you're carrying your heavy book bags at school, you're sitting all day in school. So those muscles in the posterior chains definitely start to stretch and atrophy all the time. You should always be training them. But in particular during the season, with the extra stresses that kids are dealing with, or that athletes are dealing with, those muscles are going to go south. So I like to add something in there like a bent over row. If I add a second one, it's going to be something like cable curls or dumbbell, rear dumbbell raises. So I'm going to say rear raises. Rear raise. So we've got our power, we've got our strength, we've got a little bit of bodybuilding. And then we've got core, and I don't believe in doing lots of crunches. I believe that that exercises that, again, force external rotation and exercise that maintain core stability are your best. So I'm going to say you can either do like a plank, and I got to do a video on planks because most planks look like crap. Hips are sagging, chest is up, your arms are way out in front, they look like garbage. Make sure that they're doing them properly. Or a prone cobra, which is a Superman type exercise for those of you who understand what I'm talking about, but it forces external rotation because instead of the arms being out in front, the arms are down by the sides and palms are rotated out. That's going to help maintain that posture. You know your athletes are in trouble when their posture starts to suck. Anybody's strength and conditioning program is in trouble and their performance is in trouble when their posture begins to suck. So we want to address that in this area, really. That's what we're doing. Good. Next thing we want to do is we want to talk about the tempo of these exercises. How are we doing them? Obviously, with box jumps, power. We know that. The kid's got to jump. Deadlift, we want to keep it as fast as we can. So I mean we're not spending that much time on the way down, but we want to pop on the way up. So in other words, we want to bang them out. We're not taking our slow time. We're not doing super slow training or anything of that nature. We want to just get them done. And the same thing with regard to your bodybuilding type exercise. The tempo is going to be quick, the form's got to be right, the rest intervals are going to be short, and I guarantee you that when you consider all that, these workouts are going to last more than half an hour. So same thing. Volume, box jumps. Here's the thing, this is where I think a lot of coaches make a mistake and a lot of athletes make a mistake, is with regard to the volume. We don't need much going on here. We really just need to make sure that we're maintaining our strength throughout the season, and that means that we don't have to like kill it. We don't have to crush it with volume, because we're not asking for very much, and we don't want to drain their reserves for practice and for games. So with that being said, box jumps, I do like maybe 1 to 5. I wouldn't do very many. I would do 1 set. I just want to see that you can still do it. If you're using vertical jumps and you marked at like 48, I want to see that you can still do it. If you can still do it, we're good. Might add a few reps in there. With your deadlifts, again, not too many reps or sets. I'd probably go with like a 3x3, and then maybe even from week to week, change this a little bit by maybe doing singles, or depending on how weak your athletes are, or what kind of training age they are, 3x3s are pretty good, granted that their form is good. Bodybuilding, I'm not going to go very crazy either. We'll probably go, if we superset this, we'll probably do like 2 rounds, and with regard to reps, we'll keep them like around 8 to 12. So that's it. You've really got 3, 4, 5, 6 working sets in there. 6 sets altogether. That's really a moderate to low type of volume for a strength and conditioning program. Rest intervals, I like to give them as much time as possible. For these, we don't want to rush these. I want to make sure that the power output is there. I want to make sure that the max strength power output is there. So we take our time with regard to how to do these, how we do these. And then rest intervals over here, I want them to be really short. Just say short. Short rest intervals, not very much at all, because with bodybuilding work, we want to increase the density from workout to workout. That basically means that we want to get more work done in less time, and I consider that important when talking about your the external rotation and scapular adductor type exercises, thoracic extension exercises that we mentioned here. So I think that about covers it. You can really, if you take a look, you really got all the tools that you need to design a sound strength and conditioning program. I know that a lot of you guys don't have access to barbells or to very many weights at all. Just consider when you're designing the body weight training programs, which with body weight you can still do max effort. I mean, like, how many kids do you know can't do chin-ups? You give them a little boost and that becomes one of these exercises. You could even throw in some manual resistance work, stuff of that nature, so be creative. But hopefully this is helpful and it gives you food for thought when designing your in-season program. If you need anything else, post some questions down below and I'll do my best to get back to you.